about 50 feet from me, and I went forward and saw this thing. And the first pictures that I took, I wasn't sure that they would come out because of the way that air felt.
What were the pictures, the first pictures that you took, what were they of?
Well, of this obelisk.
Yes.
And I started to think, well, maybe I should back up. Maybe if I got farther back, something would come out, if there was something going on with static electricity or
radiation or whatever that ruined the photograph, so you went back from it. And I have some of those other photographs, folks, by the way.
Now, the photograph that you have up on the web, Mr. Bell, is one that I took probably 30 feet in front to one side of the obelisk, and I was almost on the ground because I was trying to get a clear, steady exposure. The tree canopy in that area was extremely dense.
Yes, I can see.
And it was a overcast day.
I can see that as well. For those who can't clearly see it, through just barely through some of the trees, you can see the sky, and it was clearly gray and overcast. No question.
When I was taking the pictures, the exposure time was probably at least a half a second.
Do you still have the negatives, Doctor?
Yes, absolutely.
You do. Are you willing to have the negatives examined?
Yes, I am.
You are.
Did you take any pictures of the creature and your dog?
Well, my dog was nowhere to be found.
Your dog
was gone.
The dog literally, if I heard his description correctly, sort of, how did you put it, Robert?
It collapsed. The dog collapsed into herself.
Into herself.
And then disappeared?
And just disappeared into what I found on the ground to be looking like some type of white ash.
Did you get any of this?
No, I didn't.
No.
Considering everything that had happened, and what continued to happen, I'm surprised I was able to walk out of there.
Yeah, so am I. Let's
too, yes.
The next thing I'm curious about, if I can ask, is the obelisk. You were there for a total of 3 hours, found or noticed the obelisk after about an hour, took photographs. What happened to this obelisk? Was it still there when you left the area? Or
yes. In fact, when I walked up to it, it was making a humming sound. And when I touched it, the sound stopped. And as I pulled my hand back, I noticed that it changed its tone slightly, and it became less irritating, the sound. Almost a harmonic that felt like a much more pleasant sound.
Okay.
When you touched it, how did it feel?
Like stone.
Cold or warm?
Cold like ice.
It was like ice. And it also, when it was slapped, when Jonathan slapped it, absorbed the sound completely.
You slapped it?
Well, I went to push on it, and I slipped. And I used my other arm to kind of stop myself on the edge of it. And as I hit it, it made no sound.
Did it move when you hit it at all?
No. It was almost like it was anchored to the air.
How far above the ground was it actually hovering?
Approximately 36 inches, maybe 48 at the most.
Okay.
The dimensions, I don't know if I mentioned them, but it was approximately 2.5 feet high, about 4 feet, 4.5 feet wide, and about 9 or 9.5 feet long.
That looks about right, according to the adjacent foliage. I had comments from people who were assuming this was a ship, and they said, well, it's too small. The other comments that I've had, Doctor, it's an extremely clear photograph, and people have said, with respect to the craft and the photographs of the creature, how were you able to keep your senses under such extreme conditions to take such steady, clear photographs? I mean, most photographs we get from people submitted of UFOs and or creatures are people always constantly complain they're distorted, they're blurry, they're foggy, they're indistinct, and people in this case are complaining about exactly the opposite. Your pictures, they say, are too damn clear. How did you do that?
Well, after spending a couple of hours emotional and upset and sick, I think I stabilized a little bit and quieted down and thought about the fact that I had my cameras and that no one would believe what happened to my dog.
You had not only a 35-millimeter camera, which is understandable because you were on a hike, but you had some sort of video camera. What did you have with you? What kind of video?
I had a regular 8-millimeter video camera. It's a few years old.
Right. I have one, too. They're small. They're
video of this object as well as photographs?
Pardon?
You took video of the object as well as photographs?
I have video of the obelisk and of the extraterrestrial.
And I have that video, Whitley.
And if you look at the video, you can tell that I wasn't perfectly calm. I was very upset.
Far from it. Far from it. Whitley.
In fact, I do have the audio of that if you would like to hear some of it.
I do. I'd like to hold it for after the top of the hour here. Whitley, you said the video is very important?
It's very important because if he has photographs with negatives and also video, then this object probably was physically there.
Yeah,
it was physically there.
Yeah, in other words, this is no trick, Art. If he has those three elements all exist, then that's very, very.
Well, I have two of them.
Evidence.
I have the clear 35-millimeter photographs. I have the video as well.
Art?
Yes, sir.
In regards to the photographs, Jonathan did take many pictures, and not all of them came out as well. You got some of the better pictures.
I understand. You sent me the best of the lot. How many pictures in totality, Doctor, did you take?
I probably took 20. Excuse me.
20 photographs, all right?
Yes.
Of which I have 6, and some did not come out or did not come out well, I take it.
Right. That was at this site. Like I said, there was a lot of problems with the darkness, and the canopy was very heavy. I'm surprised that any of the video came out at all. In fact, if you listen to the audio, I am so distraught because through the viewfinder of the video camera, I could not see the obelisk half of the time.
I know you actually you kept saying, "Is this damn thing working? Is it working?"
Well, now that after realizing what happened, all I can assume is that the closer I was to the obelisk, the more distortion would happen with the video camera.
You were in a clear panic. There's no question about that. The video at times is broken up. I would assume some sort of electromagnetic disturbance.
The video was checked by an expert, and it was found to be not tampered with.
Okay. So in other words, whatever disturbance was there was externally caused.
Yes. And the camera is working fine. It has been checked also since.
What does this look like, this disturbance?
It looks, Whitley, like, a tracking problem when you've got a severe tracking problem on a video tape
sure, I know.
playing.
I know exactly what it is.
Now, in a lot of cases, the doctor was in a flat-out panic, and he was running at times. And then at other times, it was pretty jerky. But there were several times where he got still enough for at least a few seconds to get good, clear shots of the obelisk, and certainly many clear shots of the creature.
The farther away I was from the obelisk, the less problem there was with any kind of distortion.
So it was generating something.
Well, I figured that out because by the time I walked back probably 150 to 200 feet up on the top of the ridge, I could get a clear shot of it down in the valley.
Robert, when were you told about all of this?
That was about a year ago.
Why, doctor, did you go to Robert?
Robert's name was given to me as a person that I could trust to help write this information. I'm not a writer, and I needed some help to make this into a real, tangible, full start-to-finish episode so that I could tell the story. It's time people know they're not alone.
I understand. I'm honored that you would choose my program, and I would ask you why you did, why you chose to exclusively break all this here. Why?
Honestly speaking, Mr. Bell, a few years ago, I didn't know anything about you.
Uh-huh.
And a friend of mine told me during this episode that you were someone who dealt with this sort of thing often.
It is true.
And could get the information out regardless of what it was and let the people decide for themselves.
You're right.
This is why I have come to you.
Okay. Well, that's a good answer because that is exactly what I do. All right. Hold on. Everybody hold it right there. We've got another hour ahead of us. My guests are Dr. Jonathan Reed, who had the encounter, the documented encounter with an alien creature, and you have not yet heard the whole story by a long shot. Robert Wraith, to whom he went to try to chronicle this story. Whitley Strieber, himself a longtime contactee and author of many books, many books on the subject. And I'm Art Bell. What you're listening to is Breaking News on Coast to Coast AM. Don't touch that dial. All right, once again, to our guests, Robert Wraith, who originated the call to me, Dr. Jonathan Reed, who had the encounter, and Whitley Strieber, here to help me ask questions since he's had contact himself. Gentlemen, welcome back to the program. All right, here we are, Doctor. You have had a period of time with the obelisk. You have spent, the alien is dead. Your dog is dissolved in some way. I'll use the word dissolved. I don't know if that's proper, but gone. This obelisk remains hovering in the air, the one we have the clear photographs of. You have 2 hours now with the obelisk and with the dead alien. What's happening in these 2 hours?
Well, I'm trying to regain some type of composure, trying to make some sense out of this, trying to think, what have I done? What will happen to me because I've killed something?
Doctor, could you go back to the moment when you realized it wasn't a child and tell us what went through your mind at that moment?
Fear.